Over 2,300 combined wins in basketball, football, and baseball. College baseball's all-time winningest coach. He was named the NAIA Baseball Coach of the Century in 1998. These are only a few of the countless awards and stats of legendary coach Gordie Gillespie.
Well, I'm a Chicago guy. In fact, I just was visiting my great-grandson in Wrigleyville the other day. They live in Wrigleyville. It's the first time I was back in Wrigleyville because that's where I was born and raised on the northwest side of Chicago. So I was born and raised in Chicago, went to high school in Chicago at a sort of a smaller high school, Calvin Park High School. In fact, I hear somebody said the other day they changed the name of the school, which broke my heart.
While growing up during the Great Depression, money was a hard thing to come by.
When he went to high school, he had one shirt because it was during the Depression. And he knew what soup kitchens were like, you know? And I think sometimes when you grow up in that environment, then you sometimes, not everyone, some develop an empathy for other people.
Unlike most people, Gordie graduated high school a year early at the age of 17. He then went on to attend the University of Illinois for a year before joining the Navy during World War II.
I went into the Navy that summer, so I was fortunate when I went into the Navy that the commander of athletics there asked if I would stay and play basketball for just a 3-month period at Great Lakes. So the Great Lakes had a basketball team, one of the best in the nation.
After his career in the Navy, Gordie attended DePaul University and played basketball and baseball. His basketball coach was the late legend Ray Meyer.
I was engaged to be married to a Chicago girl, and so I transferred from the University of Illinois to be with my fiancée, all right, and I went to DePaul University where I played for Coach Ray Meyer and played baseball for DePaul. They had a baseball program there. We had a good team. In fact, one year we went unbeaten. We were, for second year in baseball, we were unbeaten, and I thought that was just great.
In basketball, Coach Gillespie played a key role each year. One of the biggest highlights of his career was an upset of powerhouse Kentucky, who was the #1 team in the nation at the time. In baseball, he played the position of catcher.
And then from there, I went into teaching. I came out here to Joliet. There was a job opening out here. Started my coaching career at Joliet Catholic High School, coaching baseball and basketball again, and getting involved with football with the Fresh Start program. And then the career took off. I went to Lewis University, still stayed at Joliet Catholic teaching football. Came over to St. Francis, I was 24 years at Lewis, and then transferred over here to be with Dr. Orr and the St. Francis family. And I spent 18 years here, where I coached girls basketball, coached baseball, and was the athletic director, and still taught football at Joliet Catholic on a part-time baseball. So I went on to Ripon College and worked with my son for 10 years. Had a great time over there. I was late in my 60s, and I was going to stay there for a year or two. Ended up staying 10 years, and then came back here when I was invited by Dave Lucchetta when my dearest friend, Tony Delgado, decided he was going to retire. So when you're coaching kids that are retired, that makes you older than Methuselah.
At Joliet Catholic Academy, Coach Gillespie won 5 state championships, including 4 in a row. JCA also had a streak where they won 51 of 52 games. Those stats are not even the amazing part.
The most amazing thing is the fact that Coach never played football.
I never played football in high school because we couldn't. You played football and bad. You couldn't mix 3 sports. So I was in Chicago public schools, so I couldn't play football. I probably couldn't have played anyway because I was real skinny. I'd have got to get busted up, you know.
And he's one of the most successful high school and college football coaches around.
Football I learned on the fly. When I was at Lewis University, they had a great football coach out there that taught me an awful lot. They had a great line coach who was an All-American lineman in Illinois. So the 5 years that football was in existence when I went out there, I learned a lot of football that I was bringing back and sharing with the Joliet Catholic staff.
Coach Gillespie's motivational techniques is key to his success. After just one speech before a St. Francis football game, those individuals knew that they had just witnessed something special.
I mean, he's like, an older guy, and he's up there and he's walking around, he's moving, he's yelling and screaming. It's the most motivational speech I've ever heard in my life, actually. Gordie, I actually played in that game, and he told us about how being a man and taking someone out one-on-one and never giving up in the game, and I took it to heart because I got hit real hard and probably should have went out, but I seen Gordie in the stands, and I didn't have the heart to actually sit out because of the speech Gordie gave us, so it was unbelievable. Yeah, he's just, I love just to sit and eye him and breathe in his excellence all day.
You can't possibly reach the pinnacles of success like Gordie has reached if you're not brilliant. Gordie is brilliant, okay? And not in athletics, brilliant, period, okay? Then he takes that brilliance and he translates it into athletics. No one could tell you how he could possibly do it in all three sports because no one else has ever done that.
But his ability to get the best out of somebody, it makes you an overachiever. And it's done out of respect. It's not done out of fear. It's done out of the respect that you have for him, his knowledge of things. You know that what he's teaching you is the proper stuff. That's what helped me.
All right, that's the way to go. Get a 4-run lead out here now.
The way Gordie cares about his players is what sets him apart from other coaches.
His love of kids. No matter what sport Gordie is coaching, and he is, I think, maybe the best coach in the history of the profession. I spent 8 years from New York to California, traveling the country, working for McGregor Sport Education, and working with Bobby Knight and Dean Smith and Hubie Brown, NBA coaches and major college coaches, only to come back to Joliet and realize that the best coach in America is Gordie Gillespie. The only coach whom I have met and worked with in Gordie's category would be John Wooden, the famous coach at UCLA. Because when you are in the presence of Coach Wooden or if you're in the presence of Coach Gillespie, you know definitively, without equivocation, that you're in the presence of greatness.
What are you most proud of in coaching? And then what are you most proud of in life outside of coaching?
Well, the things I'm most proud of in coaching is the players. Okay, that's say, oh, you won 1,700 or whatever they're talking about the numbers now.
He honestly, he wants to win, and winning's obviously the ultimate goal, but he knows that there's more to life than just baseball, and it's just a sport. At the end of the day, wins and losses don't really mean it that much.
But I also tell them this. Now, let me tell you something when I'm talking to audiences, okay? I have lost more games than anybody in the history of collegiate baseball. So that doesn't make me so good. I'm the losingest coach in the history of baseball. They announce me as the winningest coach in the history of baseball. Well, I guess he isn't so good, is he?
And it just speaks to how he has studied the game. And, not only studied the game, but studied the players and studied his own players. And how do you get the most out of your players? And that's the sign of a great coach. He remembers every pitch of every game. We still talk about some of the games when I played back in the 80s. And it's just like it happened yesterday for him. It's really incredible.
I think the primary thing is like the kid. I was very fortunate that God has allowed me that kind of thing in my personality. I really care about young people. I want them to be successful. I want them to have a wonderful family life. I want them to believe in God and all the things that we stand for.
His ability to get the best out of people, the respect that he has because he is so disciplined and teaches the proper things to do, not only on the baseball field, but in life. And it makes it a lot easier for the baseball players to play for a man like that, knowing that he's sincere and honest.
We do a basketball clinic now that Gordie came back to St. Francis. We ask him to speak at the clinic every year because I want the younger coaches in the Chicago area to just get bits and pieces of his wisdom, I couldn't tell you the things that you learn from Gordie. Being there when people are down, like when the guy who played first base for us, okay, was on a family vacation, and he dove into the pool and broke his neck. Well, Gordie and I are at the Northwestern Hospital, okay? And anybody who's ever had problems like that, the first person in the hospital is Gordie Gillespie.
I'd like to think that the kids felt that way about Gordie. Hey, no matter what the situation is, I know that I can call Gordie and he's going to come in and help me, or give me an opinion, or try to be of some service.
And you don't catch it, nobody's mad, but he's still alive, you're still alive, and perhaps he's still alive.
I played for Coach Hall, Coach Markells, who had close ties with him, and they always mentioned his name, and it was almost like he was a legend.
First day I coached here, we were out in the practice field for 8 hours. Now think about it, we practiced for 8 hours, and I physically was emotionally sick. I was so exhausted. I thought, I've never coached like this. And it was, and that night we had a meeting, and it was my day to clean the locker room. And I was just exhausted. I was dead. And here comes Gordie and goes, Coach Hall, why don't you go home? I'll clean the locker room. And here's a guy at the time who's 60-some years old, who's taking a young 40-year-old and saying, you go home, I'll take over for you. So
my dad had told me a lot of stories, and I heard about him being, one of the best coaches in baseball and winningest coach. And I didn't really realize what it meant, but then I honestly remember the first time I met him at the football game back in high school. I remember looking into his eyes. It sounds kind of weird, but looking into his eyes, and he just had this look about him. He had so much confidence, and when he talked to you, he just seemed so nice, and he cared about everything. It wasn't just about, he's Gordie Gillespie and he's, a great baseball coach. He really cared and was genuine about everything that he talked to you about.
I thought one of the greatest things that he ever did when I traveled with him during the baseball season when I was a student at St. Francis, he used to yell at the guys on the bench for the guys who made a mistake out on the field. And I always thought, that's really neat, because it keeps the guys in the game and it makes them think, okay, now I've got to remember that for the next time.
Coach Gillespie demands that you know what you're talking about and that you coach the kids at all times.
How come we got nobody coaching first base, coaches? What are we running out here?
When I was hired by Coach Gillespie, he said, you're going to come here and you're going to work, and I'm going to teach you. I coach coaches, he said. You coach players. And just make sure that what you give to those players is honest and truthful and right to the point. Don't ever tell a kid something that you don't firmly believe. Don't ever tell a kid that he did something wrong without sometime later on during the day putting your arm around that boy and telling that boy how good he is. Never let him leave the field thinking that he's not a good player.
With all of Gordie's triumphs has come some hardships. Family life is nearly impossible to have success with when you're away from home so much like Gordie.
My first marriage ended up in divorce, which I am not proud of, okay? And it was and the thing is, I don't think any woman can put up with the strain of raising the families my first wife was a wonderful wife. When I married Joan, her family was raised, and she had 6 children. She lost one. She lost her oldest boy to AIDS. And my children were all raised. My youngest was 21 years old. And so she adapts good. She goes to the games and so on and so forth. So, but it's a completely different circumstances.
I was older when I married Gordie. We're a second family. So perhaps I garnered some wisdom as a result of that. But I learned early on that if the marriage was going to have success at all, I could either fight the fact that he's gone all the time in coaching, or I could join and learn as much about what he's doing as possible. I was pretty sure that I was going to be a wife who was going to be at home a lot by myself. And but I determined to learn a lot about what he was doing, a lot about the sports that he has coached and is coaching. And therefore, when he comes home, I can talk intelligently to him about what he's doing. You know what? He is basically exactly the same person at home, except he probably doesn't yell at me as much as he does his players.
You can't hit the friggin' ball on the ground, then you can't play. That's how simple it is. I can't punt, I can't hit the run, I can't do all those things. That's a shame. Oh, me like baseball though. Girls come watch me play.
And interestingly, he doesn't bring home his problems. In other words, if he's had a really, hard day, if you've had a hard day with him on the field and he's had a hard day, he never brings that home to me.
Coach Gillespie has been inducted into 15 Hall of Fames, but there is only one Hall of Fame that matters to him. A Hall of Fame he has not yet been inducted into.
There's only one. You may think I'm being a little trite here, or carp, or whatever you want to call it. There's only one Hall of Fame. There's only one Hall of Fame, and that's heaven.
When I married Gordie, I was already very much a strong believer in Christ. So we've grown in that regard together.
Everything is about Jesus, okay? If you want to say I'm a Jesus freak, I'm a Jesus freak. I don't mind being said I'm a Jesus freak.
The thing that I think about Coach Gillespie that separates him from a lot of people, a lot of different coaches, is how he had the ability to take people and get the best out of people, not just on the baseball field, but as human beings. I've always said it, and I've told Coach Gillespie this, that he was a big role model in my life. He changed my life, and he put me on a course that has groomed me to be what I am today.
I like to think that through all these years and all these kids, and I have no idea the number of kids that I've influenced, but I'd like to think that the relationship with some days, they looked at me and said, "See, that's my granddad," or he's like my father, he's like my grandfather. Now it's probably he's like my great-grandfather, whatever. But I'd like him to look at me, because I look at them as my sons. I feel the same warmth as my son. And when I coached the girls, the couple of years that I coached the girls, I had the same warmth like they're my daughters.
If he has the greatest ball player in the world that's batting .500 in baseball, and the individual is a jerk off the field, he doesn't want him. And, he'll get rid of that person. Because down the road, he wants him to be a great family man, a great mother, a great father.
With the exception of my parents, he's probably the greatest teacher coach I've ever come across.
You'd have to, honestly, you have to play for him to get the whole experience, but I mean, he knows what he's doing.
When all this is said and done, you retire from the game and everything, when people hear the name Gordie Gillespie, what do you want them to think about?
Well, I think the one thing that I would like to have people know, I was accused when I was teaching at Joliet Catholic and we were winning those 50 games in a row or whatever we won, all the state championships, or when I was, this year at St. Francis, we almost set the collegiate baseball record. We had 39 out of 40 or whatever we won. The record was 41 for consecutive wins. I would like to have them think, say, I was accused of cheating. They were saying that I recruited in high school. I never called a kid at Joliet Catholic High School in 35 years in football. I never called a kid to have him come and play football at Joliet Catholic from Lamont or Lockport or wherever it was, I was accused of being cheating. You know why I was accused of being? Because they couldn't beat us. And I hate to say that, but that's the truth. They couldn't beat us, so they figured, we got to get this guy, must be cheating. Okay, so, but I'd like to think that all the coaches that played against me thought that, hey, Gordie never cheated. So the thing that a legacy, he was an honest man. He was an honest man, and a loving man, and a guy that loved Jesus.